That was beautiful. Thank you. So humor, and I mean what we find funny, not bodily fluids or secretions, is our topic for this series of sermons. And I got to say right off the bat, how we went in the English language from that word, meaning bodily functions or secretions, to actual things that are funny, I think there's a story. Like, how did that ever happen?
That's the first thing the kids notice. It's really funny.
Oh, now I know. That makes perfect sense. This is true. I raised 3 boys. That's right. So she said the reason that the word went from bodily secretions to things that are funny is because that's the first things kids think are funny. And having raised 3 boys, absolutely. Absolutely. The farting jokes went on for years.
Still.
I know. That being said, when we find things funny, we laugh. And primates laugh. Lots of animals laugh, surprisingly, in my research. So as a species, we have been laughing since before we were human beings. We laugh as babies. We have a baby here now in the office who is just starting to laugh. And if you really want to see an adorable little Buddha baby, come and see Jen's baby in the office. And she is just starting, and she's not quite getting it. Like, you know, her little cheeks are up, and she's making a couple sounds. She knows things are funny. I mean, she's laughing, but she hasn't quite got the hang of it. It's very adorable. And it's important that we laugh. It affirms that there is goodness in the world. It affirms that we find things funny. Heart specialists, I've been a hospital chaplain. Heart specialists say we need humor in our lives so that our hearts are strong. But we don't need a specialist to tell us that laughter is good for us. We only need to do it intuitively and know that we feel better after an episode of our favorite comedy or a funny book. Humor helps us get through hard times. And we can do it alone or with others. The beauty of humor. It's not dependent on outside stimulus. We can laugh at ourselves. We can laugh at our lives, which I have done plenty of times. And this is an important characteristic of humor, of laughing. And I believe if we don't find the human predicament humorous, then we are doomed to be cynical and jaded. We need to find ourselves funny. And I remember the first time I laughed after my son died. I felt really good and then really guilty. And then really good again. Because I knew that there was life after death. I really knew that to my bones. And I knew that I would be okay. It's a way of healing. We need laughter. We need humor. We need each other to laugh with. It's better to laugh in a room, I found out in researching this sermon, than to laugh alone. But laugh alone if that's all you can do. So we know that humor is natural and good for us, but why talk about it in church and not a psychiatrist's office? Over the next few weeks, I hope to answer this question a little, and today we're going to start with an exploration of comedians and our religious life. So I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to think about your first comedy show or book that was transformational. And why don't we shout them out popcorn style? Just go for it.
Breakfast is coming up.
Cats enjoy the kids.
Lots of variety of humor, from shows to books to movies to art. For me, it was all in the family. This set was simple, the actors superb, the script was biting. It was credited with being the first political sitcom, but obviously the writer of Rolling Stones had not read Shakespeare. But it was a show that took unpleasant truths and delivered them with human accuracy in a funny way. It made me laugh, and I was 12 years old when it started. And I knew it was teaching me about life and about human relationships, but I would just be on the floor, rolling in laughter at the humor of it. Lately, I love James Corden, who was first introduced to me on Doctor Who, where he played the forlorn, hesitant friend who ended up saving the world and finding true love. He was so good with Matt Smith, the then current Doctor Who, that he came back as a new dad, and again, feeling unsure, but working out his relationships with this little alien, his son. And what I love now is his stoplight musical plays. Have you seen them on YouTube? Oh, you've got to go. So every time one comes out, I either hear about it from Facebook or my sisters. We text them back and forth. He did Hair in the middle of two stop in a crosswalk. It's really funny, and he does like the 2-minute version of a song and puts on the whole production in the 30 seconds of a stop sign. It's very cute. He also does the first singing in the car with people. He did a Paul McCartney and a Beyonce. He's very funny. And they show up on my news feeds, like I said, either in Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, or now I've got my sisters all looking for them, so we text them back and forth. And on so many levels, humor is a vehicle for a message, and it can be an easy pill for people to swallow. All in the Family was not easy questions that they were grappling with. Sometimes the things on Doctor Who or the comedian shows that we watch or the books that we read, it's not an easy message, but with humor, it kind of slips on by. We can experience race, class, and gender issues in non-threatening ways. We can see families have conversations that we long to have with our families. Archie and Michael fought in ways that left them still a family. Edith, in her own way, liberated women from patriarchy, and a young married couple on the show worked out roles of love, housework, and sex with humor. And when I went to talk to my dad about the role of people in color in the Mormon church, I had an idea about what I was going to say to him because I had seen it done in a sitcom, and it worked out okay. I took cues from Michael. Humor is cultural as well as religious, and I think Jesus might have had a sense of humor. Now, bear with me. Kathleen Aubin says, in the story of Mary and Martha, one sister gets reprimanded for doing the housework instead of listening to the rabbi. And I mean, in that culture, what was Jesus trying to say? Think about that for a minute. Stop taking care of everyone and listen. That's the general understanding. But what were the husbands and children thinking about Jesus' message to women? Stop cooking and cleaning and stop taking care of the laundry and the children? Who was going to do it if the women weren't. And in the world I grew up with, in a patriarchal culture, I would have thought that was funny. I would have loved to have heard Jesus back then saying from the back room, "Come on, stop cooking and cleaning for Sunday supper and come back and listen." I would have loved that. I would have found that funny. What was Jesus really trying to say there? I'm not really sure, but it made me chuckle. Comedians in our culture paved the way for contemporary societies to examine themselves. And this is what we do as Unitarian Universalists. We value examination of self, communities, and the society at large. We value examination of institutions. And although I don't think anyone would accuse our famous seminarians, Emerson, Channing, or Skinner, of being funny, we do value jokes, and we have personal jokes about ourselves, which I will tell throughout the month, but I'll tell you one now. Why did the chicken cross the road with a Unitarian Universalist? You can give me an answer. Why? Why? No ideas? Okay, so they could find their own path to enlightenment. There's lots of you jokes on the web. And I will be testing them on you. As a culture, we explore religions and their institutions through humor. In the movie Dogma, how many of you have seen Dogma? Oh. Go, if you get a chance, go see Dogma. It's fun. In that movie, you get to examine the funnier side of religious life. When a woman discovers she is the descendant from Jesus' family and needs to save the world, all hell breaks loose metaphysically and literally. With a cast of comedians like Chris Rock and George Carlin, everyone feels the sting of examination. Questions of blind faith, ritual and rules, saints and demons are investigated. And the main characters have crises of faith and are led to new understandings of what it means to be a person of faith, all with a really funny joke. People of color who are left out of the Bible stories are brought back in. Women find their role in the story of salvation. And it's all done with a sense of humor. As you can imagine, Chris Rock and George Carlin all in the same mix. It's funny. So comedians allow us to laugh at old beliefs that have now become absurd. Some of the things about religion and religious institutions in that movie are held up in their absurdity. And we get to see it and laugh at it. And then we say, oh, wait a minute. We kind of do that. Maybe it's not such a good idea. So comedians point the way to new understandings and new ways of being in relationship to our friends and families, communities, and institutions. Like Star Trek, they boldly go where no one has gone before, and we follow the way because it's safely paved with laughter. Now, I want to hold up, and I'll hold up in each of these weeks, that humor can cut both ways, and we need to be careful. Humor can be used as a tool for evil as well as good. We can make fun of those we don't understand or people we want to dehumanize. Comedians have done this too. Just think about blackface or the ways minorities have been used in books, art, and media as underdogs, sidekicks, and scapegoats. We need to be careful about our humor. We also need to be careful at what we're laughing at. What is that behavior we're laughing at? We need to be mindful that we are laughing at something, not someone. And we're not doing more harm than good. When I was researching this again, I found out that laughter and anger hold that same binding force in cultures. So we really need to be careful at what we're laughing at. And Hannah Gainsbury, a modern comedian who has a show on Netflix, talks about this self-deprecating humor, and I have a confession to make. One of the girls pointed her out to me in the office. I watched about a 15 or 20-minute clip. I thought, oh, great, I'm going to talk about it. Last night, I watched the whole thing. I am not going to talk about it tonight because it was so powerful. So if you want to know what I'm going to talk about next week in my sermon, go watch her. It was both, I was laughing, but it was hard. It was a hard comedy act to watch because she really holds up how humor can hurt our stories. And so I'm not ready to talk about it today. She states in this that she doesn't want to use herself, her character, or her body in ways that make you laugh, and I think this is valuable. And it may be the next stage in our evolution as human beings. How do we create funny narrative stories without robbing ourselves of respect and dignity? And when we expect it of ourselves, I have a feeling that first, we have to start with ourselves. That's what Buddhism teaches me. And then we can do it for others. And this is what, again, we'll explore next week. But today, I want you to make someone laugh if you can. Even if you're feeling blue, I heartily suggest it. Find something to smile about in our human nature or the nature of religion. Religion gives you lots of fodder for laughter. Listen to a comedian whose message you need to hear in days of sorrow, worry, and regret. Being able to find a moment of laughter can be life-giving or life-saving. And the people said, Amen, and blessed be.